A quick refresher on how to use a if or a VLOOKUP if you're trying to look something up. If you're looking up a conditional where it's a binary state of affairs, so you're looking for a yes, no, true, false, something along those lines, then I can use an if statement. So here on pass, fail for a percentage on a test or course or whatever. What is my passing score is my first question on that. So let's just say a passing score is a 70. Now, right now, these are all on the same scale. If this was a percentage like a 0.95, this would need to be a 0.7. But my grade table, my passing score, and my percent are all on the same scale. If I wanted to scale those differently, that would be fine as well. Now, I'm going to name this table, even though it's a single value, passing score. The reason I started with table is that's what I start all of my things that I name with, just to make it easier to find later. So here I'm going to say equals if this value is greater than or equal to that value, then I want to say passed or pass, otherwise it's a fail. Okay, and since I've named this, that makes that an absolute reference instead of a relative one. So if I double click, it goes through and does all of those for me. I used a reference to the passing score field up here because let's say I go through and I look and I say, well, really we should use a 60 for the cutoff score. If you look at the next to last entry, you'll see that 64, and you'll see it changes to a pass when I change that up there. If a 50 is passing, then everyone passed. If a 80, so I can go through and count using that score, or go through and change it just by changing that one score to pass fail. So that's how you do the if statement. Let's do it one more time just for fun. Equals if the logical test, so if that is greater than or equal to the passing score that I need, then pass, otherwise fail. Close my parentheses, that's all there is to it. Once again, this is a absolute reference because it's named, and then I can just do that and everything is good. So the next thing that we will do on here is let's do the grade. So A, B, C, D, or F. For that, we'll do the VLOOKUP. Let's name our table. It's important that you only name starting at your first value. Do not include the title. It's also important that these are sorted in ascending order. Without those two conditions, it won't work. So we'll call this table grades. Doesn't matter what I call it, just something that I can know when I look at it. Equals VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP means vertical because our table goes up and down, therefore it's vertical. HLOOKUP does the same thing, just horizontal. I'm going to look up this value here, the 95. My table array, what do I call it? It starts with TBL, grades, there we go. It selects that. Next comma, which column is the value I want to return after the lookup value is matched? First column or the second column. I want the grade, therefore that is the second column. If there were 7 columns and it was in the fifth, I would choose fifth. There's only 2 columns, it's in the second, so I'm going to do the second column. Do I want a approximate match or a exact match? In this case with grades, it's somewhat of a continuous value instead of a discrete value. By continuous, I mean that there's so many values. Having a table that had every value listed would be almost impossible. That's a pretty good sign we want an approximate match. It doesn't have to match exactly, it has to match within a range. So that's true, which is the default. Had I not put anything, it would have been true. Hit enter and you'll see that it goes through and gives me the values. So all those are in there. Let's test. A good place to test is the boundary condition. The boundary condition for a C is a 70. You see that a 70 is a C, so that turned out well. 80 for a B, that worked perfect. Do we have a 79 or anything ends in a 9? And 89 is a B, that shows as it should. So just looking at the boundary ones, everything looks good. Other thing I could do if I wanted to would be just to remember the value that's in this cell, and I could go through and say a 59 is an F, a 60 is a D, a 69 is a D, a 70 is a C, a 79 is a C, an 80 is a B, a 89 is a B, and a 90 is an A. And just one last thing to test. Yeah, everything seems to be working fine. Just going through, looking at the boundary values, put my other value back in there that I'm using as a check, and that works just fine. So that covers how to do the if statements and the VLOOKUPs. If I was trying to look up something where I want it to match exactly, then I would just make this statement false. But that's just a quick introduction to the basics. Have a great day.